Hey, this is Pastor Bunjee Garrett, and I want to take some time today to present you with another word of encouragement. So, do you remember back in October when President Biden announced his full support for Israel? It was shortly after Hamas terrorists carried out their attack on the civilians there in southern Israel. That's when Biden assured the world that the USA is committed to ensuring the safety of Israel. Here's how he put it, and I quote, "My message to any state or any other hostile actor thinking about attacking Israel remains the same as it was a week ago. Don't. Okay, gotcha. So any bad actor who's even thinking about attacking Israel, don't do it. Don't mess with Israel." Sadly, it was in the same speech when Biden once again spoke from the other side of his mouth as he continued to call for a two-state solution. And here's how he put it. I quote him again. "That's why, as hard as it is, we must keep pursuing peace. We must keep pursuing a path so that Israel and the Palestinian people can both live safely, in security, in dignity, and in peace. For me, that means a two-state solution." Gotcha. So Biden still believes that a two-state solution is possible. And yeah, despite the fact that all pro-Palestinian propaganda includes the call for Israel to be wiped from the face of the map. Oh, don't take my word for it. This is the goal that can be heard in the chants of the protesters who declare, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." Now, some try to gaslight us by insisting that, well, this isn't really a call for the genocide of the Jews, and yet as we consider the constitution of Hamas, well, this is clearly what they're calling for. Here's how the official constitution from Hamas explains this, and I quote, "Palestine is a land that was seized by a racist, anti-human, and colonial Zionist project that was founded on a false promise, the Balfour Declaration, on recognition of a usurping entity, and on imposing a fait accompli by force." Or in other words, the Gazan government, which was elected by the Palestinians there in Gaza, they will only accept the full and complete liberation of Palestine, which includes a Palestinian state that extends from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. The same Hamas constitution, it also presents us with the following goal, and I quote, "Palestine symbolizes the resistance that shall continue until liberation is accomplished, until the return is fulfilled, and until a fully sovereign state is established with Jerusalem as its capital." Or to put it in the words of Syrian leader Hafez al-Assad, he says this, and I quote, "We shall only accept war and the restoration of the usurped land to oust you aggressors and throw you into the sea for good." That's right. The goal of the Arabs is to wipe Israel from the face of the map and drive the aggressors from the river into the sea. Those who suggest otherwise are either gaslighting us or they've been duped and deceived by Palestinian propaganda. In order to further make my case, let's consider how former Home Secretary Suella Braverman explains this chant. According to her understanding, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." This is a slogan that is, and I quote her here, "widely understood as a demand for the destruction of Israel." And then she added this, "Attempts to pretend otherwise are disingenuous." That's right. Those who try to tell you that this chant is less than a call for the genocide of the Jews, they're being disingenuous, and I would even argue that, many of them are just being deceptive. Those who insist that the so-called Palestinians are simply looking for a defined space within the land of promise that they can share side by side with Israel, well, they're failing to consider the stated position of Hamas. Here's how Hamas explains it in their published constitution, and I quote again, "Palestine is an Arab Islamic land. It is a blessed, sacred land that has a special place in the heart of every Arab and every Muslim." In other words, Palestine, according to Hamas, Palestine is a land that is just for the Arabs and for those who submit to Allah. Now, just to be clear about the boundaries of this land, just so that we know what they're talking about when they say Palestine, the same Hamas charter provides us with the borders of Palestine in this way, and I quote, "Palestine, which extends from the River Jordan in the east to the Mediterranean in the west, and from Ras al-Nakura in the north to al-Rash in the south, is an integral territorial unit It is the land and the home of the Palestinian people. In other words, the land of Palestine, according to Hamas, is the same region that the Bible identifies as the land of Israel. And not only that, but the same charter from Hamas also assures us that the only people who have a right to live in this land are Arabs or those who submit to Allah. Simply put, the Israelis, according to Hamas, have no right to live in the land of promise. Here's how the leaders of Hamas put it in their published charter, and I quote again, "The expulsion and banishment of the Palestinian people from their land and the establishment of the Zionist entity therein do not annul the right of the Palestinian people to their entire land and do not entrench any rights therein for the usurping Zionist entity." In other words, the Zionist entity, which we call the State of Israel, according to Hamas, they have no rights to the land that they call Palestine. Therefore, those who chant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, they're literally calling for the genocide of the Jews. Further proof of my point can be found in the following statement, which is again found in the published Hamas charter. And I quote here, Hamas believes that no part of the land of Palestine shall be compromised or conceded, irrespective of the causes, the circumstances, and the pressures, and no matter how long the occupation lasts. Hamas rejects any alternative to the full and complete liberation of Palestine from the river to the sea. In other words, the Gazan government, which we now call Hamas, this government that was elected by the majority of the Palestinians there in Gaza. This government is not interested in a two-state solution, and they have no plan to end their attacks on the state of Israel until the entirety of this land, from the river to the sea, is cleansed of the Zionist entity. Now, in light of these things, listen, those who continue to call for a two-state solution, like the Biden administration, they're either confused or they're profiting from the never-ending war that's taking place there in the land of Israel. And with that being the case, well, it seems clear to me that the Biden administration belongs to the latter group. As a matter of fact, it was just last week when Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, he told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that there is no military solution for their situation. He was effectively informing Israel that they can't defeat Hamas, and so they simply must accept some sort of two-state solution. In other words, the Biden administration is continuing to push for the failed policies which continue to create the conditions for the never-ending Arab attacks on the state of Israel, while Biden goes on to say that, hey, we'll supply you with all the weapons that you need to fight this fight. Thankfully, since October the 7th, Netanyahu finally realizes that Israel must take control of all of their land from the river to the sea. And here's how he explained it yesterday. He declares this, and I quote, "In the future, the state of Israel has to control the entire area from the river to the sea." That's right, the state of Israel must control the land of Israel, which extends from the river to the sea, and this according to the promise that the Lord presented to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's actually found in Genesis 13. There the Lord God spoke to Father Abraham and declared this, "Lift your eyes now and look from the place where you are northward, southward, eastward, westward. For all the land which you see I give to you and your descendants forever." Forever is what he said. The land that God gave to Abraham and his descendants was given to them forever. It's an everlasting inheritance. And just to be clear, this promise was then passed down through Abraham's son Isaac, and then again through Isaac's son Jacob, who was then renamed Israel. Here's how King David puts it in the 105th Psalm. There he declares, "O seed of Abraham, his servant, you children of Jacob, his chosen ones. He is the Lord our God. His judgments are in all the earth. He remembers his covenant forever, the word which he commanded for 1,000 generations, the covenant which he made with Abraham and his oath to Isaac, and confirmed it to Jacob for a statute to Israel as an everlasting covenant, saying, to you I will give the land of Canaan as the allotment of your inheritance." That's right. The entire land of promise, it belongs to Abraham, and through Abraham it belongs to Isaac, and not Ishmael. And listen, the land of promise doesn't belong to Esau either. No, instead it belongs to the descendants of Jacob. And according to the Lord, the deed of the land of Israel was given as an everlasting covenant. It's a deed that lasts forever. What this means then is that those who have an issue with Israel securing the borders of their own land, well, listen, your issue is with the God who sovereignly gave the people the land as an everlasting inheritance. You know, as a Christian, I rejoice in God's decision to restore the children of Israel back into their land. And one reason why is because this is the promise that he made. And not only that, but this brings us one step closer to the second coming of Christ. As for those who attempt to demonize the state of Israel for their decision to defend their own land, well, I encourage you to go ahead and read Revelation chapter 19, where we learn about the second coming of Christ, because Jesus Christ supports their right to defend that land. You know, according to John, it's in the book of Revelation chapter 19, we find the Lord, he's returning and lays waste to all of the armies that came together against the nation of Israel. It's in Revelation 19, it's verse 21, where John sums up this battle by informing us that the enemies of Israel will be killed with the sword which proceeds from the mouth of our Messiah, Jesus Christ. And all the birds will be filled with their flesh. Wow, that's incredible imagery. And what this means then is that the second coming of Christ is going to culminate in the violent death of Israel's enemies. And with that being the case, it's crucial for every Christian to take the time today to warn the world about this day of doom and destruction. Let's love people enough to tell them the truth about the day of wrath, which is soon going to come upon this world. And as we do, let's present every unbeliever with the good news that both Jew and Gentile alike can be saved from the wrath of God by faith in Jesus Christ. And in this way, the Lord will enable us to fight the good fight of faith, and all for the glory of God.